The alien fleet hovered above Earth, a vast armada casting shadows that blotted out the stars. The alien king, seated on his throne, gazed at the planet with contempt. His war council stood beside him, eager to raze the human cities below. "Crush them, my lord," one of his generals urged. "Their primitive weapons will be nothing before our might." But the king raised a hand, silencing the room. His voice dripped with arrogance as he spoke. "No, I will not waste resources on an immediate conquest. These humans are insignificant. They shall bow before me willingly, or I will take everything from them." He leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "Send the message. Demand their tribute. Let them know that their place is beneath us." Moments later, a transmission beamed down to Earth. The message was clear: surrender and pay tribute, or face utter annihilation. The terms were simple. Humanity would become slaves, their resources fueling the ever-expanding alien empire. Defiance meant death. The alien king sat back, smugly awaiting Earth's capitulation. He had seen species crumble at the mere sight of his fleet, cowed by his power. He expected no different here. But Earth's response was far from what he anticipated. A few hours passed before a reply came. A transmission broadcast across the stars, straight into the heart of the alien fleet. Earth leaders appeared, their expressions resolute, their voices unwavering. "We are not your slaves. Come if you dare." The king's smug smile faltered. His war council exchanged uneasy glances. There was no fear in the human response, no pleading for mercy, no sign of submission. It was a declaration, not of surrender but of war. "How dare they?" The king spat, rising from his throne. His pride, wounded by the audacity of these humans, now demanded retaliation. "Prepare the fleet. Show them no mercy." The order was given, and the invasion began. Alien ships descended upon Earth's major cities, their weapons lighting up the night sky with destruction. New York, London, Tokyo, all were struck with terrifying precision. The aliens, confident in their technological superiority, believed the war would be over within hours. Yet Earth did not fall. Beneath the chaos, humanity scrambled to defend itself. While the alien ships rained fire from the skies, Earth's leaders initiated emergency protocols. Citizens were ushered underground, and what remained of the global military launched a counter-offensive, though it seemed futile against the overwhelming alien force. The alien king watched the destruction unfold, certain that victory was inevitable. But as the hours passed, he realized something strange. The humans were still fighting. Even as their cities crumbled, they refused to surrender. Reports of resistance poured in, human forces striking back in small, organized raids, sabotaging alien supply lines, and launching guerrilla attacks. "They're fighting back?" one of his generals asked, incredulous. "How?" The king's expression darkened. He had expected them to be broken by now, to kneel before him. But instead, the humans were fighting with a ferocity he had not anticipated. He underestimated their resilience, their sheer will to survive. Underground, Earth's leaders convened in a hastily constructed bunker deep beneath the Earth. The situation was dire, but there was no panic, no despair. Plans were drawn up, strategies formed. They knew they couldn't match the aliens in firepower, but they had something far more dangerous: human ingenuity. "We can't beat them in the skies," one military commander said, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "But we can outlast them. They think we're weak, but they don't know what we're capable of." Survival became the goal. Humanity's military forces regrouped, launching hit-and-run tactics against the alien invaders. Civilians, hiding in underground shelters, were kept alive by makeshift supply lines, aided by a network of communication and resilience that the aliens had not anticipated. Weeks passed, and still, the aliens could not break Earth's defenses. For every city they destroyed, human forces retaliated by targeting their supply ships, disrupting their communications, and exploiting small but critical weaknesses. The war had turned into a battle of endurance. Underground, scientists worked tirelessly on new weapons, desperate to find a way to push back the alien invaders. Every strike, every small victory, was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The aliens, for all their advanced technology, didn't understand how deeply humans could dig in, how they would fight to the last breath, using every resource, every ounce of ingenuity to survive. The alien king grew more and more frustrated. His war council, once so eager for conquest, now spoke in hushed tones, concern growing with every failed attempt to break human resistance. The humans were supposed to have been easy prey, yet here they were, defying him at every turn. They refused to be broken, one general admitted, his voice low. Perhaps we underestimated their will. The king's pride, however, would not allow him to admit defeat. We have crushed greater civilizations than this. Their defiance will be their downfall. But despite his bluster, the king knew the truth. The humans were not like other species he had conquered. They did not crumble under fear or submit to power. They fought back with everything they had, and the longer the war dragged on, the more he realized that this was not a battle he could easily win. Humanity would not bow. The alien king paced, frustration gnawing at him. Despite his fleet's overwhelming technological superiority, the humans still resisted. Their primitive forces should have been crushed long ago, yet pockets of rebellion persisted, and the war was dragging on far longer than anticipated. They are like insects, the king muttered to his generals. They scurry in the shadows, ting at our heels. Crushed in one place, they appear in another. How is this possible? The arrogance that had defined his early decisions remained, but now there was a trace of doubt. Reports from the battlefield painted a picture of a war growing increasingly difficult to control. The humans weren't fighting by conventional means. They had abandoned large-scale military engagements and instead were striking from the shadows. Human forces had shifted tactics entirely. Rather than meeting the alien armadas head-on, they had resorted to guerrilla warfare. Small, nimble units conducted hit-and-run operations, sabotaging alien supply chains, attacking their command posts, and retreating before the aliens could respond. It was a slow bleed, not a decisive blow, but it was effective. Every alien advance was met with unexpected setbacks. On Earth, in makeshift bunkers, the human military command saw an opportunity. The aliens were overextended and their hubris blinded them to the true nature of the fight. Earth's terrain, its unpredictable weather, its labyrinth of cities and underground systems, all of it provided humanity with cover. Where the alien forces relied on brute force and superior technology, the humans exploited their knowledge of the planet and struck where the aliens were weakest. Ambushes became common. An alien convoy would move through a ruined city, only to be hit by a sudden explosion. Human commandos would swoop in, wreak havoc, then disappear before reinforcements could arrive. Sabotage teams infiltrated alien strongholds, tampering with their systems, planting traps, and leaving just enough damage to slow them down. It was a war of attrition, and it was working. Frustration among the alien ranks grew. The invaders were accustomed to swift victories, their enemies collapsing under the weight of their firepower. But the humans, while suffering great losses, refused to crumble. Their morale was bolstered by every small victory, and with each successful operation, alien morale took a hit. The alien king could feel the unrest brewing within his own ranks. The human strategy was evolving even further. Top military scientists, working in secret labs hidden deep beneath the earth, were developing new biological and technological weapons designed specifically to target the alien biology. It wasn't enough to destroy their ships. Humanity needed to cripple the aliens at a fundamental level. Toxic agents engineered to disrupt the aliens' respiratory systems were released in strategic areas. This bioweapon didn't kill immediately. Instead, it weakened the aliens over time, draining their strength and morale. The invaders had come to Earth expecting a short, glorious conquest. What they faced now was a slow, grinding war where every day brought new losses. In addition to these physical weapons, Earth's leaders began discussing an even more ambitious plan: a psychological weapon. The key to alien morale, to the entire structure of the Empire, was their king. He was more than a ruler, he was a symbol of invincibility. If humanity could break him, they could break the Empire. A clandestine meeting was held deep underground, away from even the prying eyes of their own allies. "If we capture their king," one general said, "we don't just win a battle, we break their spirit. We show them that their god-king is nothing more than flesh and bone." The discussion turned to how they could use such a capture to their advantage. Killing him would be a victory, but not the decisive blow they needed. Instead, they discussed the possibility of breaking him mentally, turning him into a puppet to destroy the empire from within. It was risky, but if successful, it could end the war in a single, decisive act. That opportunity came sooner than expected. In the middle of a skirmish in a remote part of Europe, where the humans had set up an elaborate ambush, intelligence reports suggested the alien king himself was overseeing the operation. It was a rare opportunity. He rarely left the safety of his flagship, but his growing frustration with the humans had driven him to the battlefield. Human commandos were dispatched immediately, their mission clear: capture the king alive. The battle raged as expected, with the aliens initially gaining the upper hand. But as the fighting dragged on, the humans' trap was sprung. A carefully planned explosion separated the king from his guards, and in the chaos that followed, the human strike team moved in. The capture was swift and precise. The king, caught off guard, was rendered unconscious and whisked away before anyone could realize what had happened. His guards, believing him dead in the explosion, retreated in disarray, assuming command was lost. The king's capture was a turning point in the war, but it was kept a closely guarded secret. To the aliens, their leader had simply disappeared in the heat of battle. They believed he had been vaporized, his remains scattered among the ruins. The humans, however, had him alive, held in a secure facility miles beneath the surface of the Earth. As the alien forces continued to fight, unaware of their leader's fate, humanity prepared the next phase of their plan: the psychological destruction of the king. They had captured his body, but soon they would capture his mind. The alien king sat restrained in a cold, dimly lit room deep beneath the Earth's surface. His eyes, once filled with arrogance and cruelty, now flickered with confusion. Over the past weeks, Earth's top scientists had been working tirelessly to break him, not physically, but mentally. They weren't interested in torturing him for information. They had a far more insidious plan: to dismantle his mind and rebuild it, making him their puppet. At first, the king had resisted, his pride shielding him from the effects of the mental conditioning. He had ruled over countless worlds, bent countless species to his will, and believed himself untouchable. But the humans were patient, and their methods were precise. Day after day, they chipped away at his confidence, isolating him, feeding him carefully curated information designed to make him doubt everything he once knew. The king was subjected to endless loops of false memories, simulations where humanity was portrayed as his true masters. In these illusions, he was not a king but a servant forever bound to the will of Earth's leaders. Slowly, reality began to blur. The longer the process continued, the more his mind fractured, and the easier it became for his captors to insert new truths. His transformation wasn't immediate. There were moments of defiance, brief flashes of his old self trying to claw its way back to the surface. But the humans were relentless, and over time, those moments became fewer, until eventually they disappeared altogether. The king who had once demanded Earth's surrender, who had laughed at the idea of humans standing in his way, was gone. In his place was a shell, a puppet who believed that humans were his true overlords. The once mighty alien ruler was now utterly obedient, his will bent entirely to that of his human captors. He no longer saw himself as the sovereign leader of a vast empire, but as a humble servant to humanity. His mind had been reprogrammed to the point where he truly believed that his purpose was to honor and serve the very species he had sought to enslave. Earth's leadership knew that breaking the king's mind was only the first step. The next phase was to use him as a weapon, not on the battlefield, but in a battle for the hearts and minds of the galaxy. They planned to broadcast his humiliation to the entire universe, to show the alien empire that their once great leader had been reduced to a mere pawn, a figurehead who now worshipped the very species they had sought to destroy. The plan was carefully orchestrated. Humanity's leaders knew that this was not just about defeating the alien forces on the battlefield. It was about breaking the spirit of their entire empire. They needed the alien people to see their king, not as a captive, but as a willing servant of humanity. The psychological blow would be devastating, sowing doubt, fear, and confusion among the alien ranks. Preparation for the grand spectacle began. A massive parade was arranged, one that would be broadcast not only across Earth but also to the far reaches of the galaxy. The streets of a ruined human city were cleared, and the event was meticulously staged. Every detail was considered. The banners, the crowds, the speeches, all designed to emphasize humanity's triumph over their would-be conquerors. The alien king was dressed in elaborate robes, not as a prisoner but as if he were being honored. He was paraded through the streets atop a float, his expression serene, his eyes reflecting a diluted sense of pride. He truly believed this was his moment of glory, that he was being celebrated for his loyalty to humanity. His tie-in was complete. He had become exactly what Earth's leaders needed him to be: a puppet. As the parade began, the humans around him cheered, but it wasn't admiration that filled their voices. It was mockery. They didn't see him as a king, but as a symbol of their victory, a broken ruler whose empire had crumbled before their might. The alien king, oblivious to the humiliation, waved to the crowds as if he were being praised. He spoke, his voice broadcast across the stars. "I stand here today in honor of the greatest species in the galaxy, humanity. I now understand my place, and it is beneath them. My people, I urge you to accept this truth. We are not their conquerors, we are their servants." The words, dripping with sincerity, echoed across the alien empire. To those watching, it was a scene out of a nightmare. Their once invincible ruler, the symbol of their strength and unity, now stood before them as a broken, delusional figure. He wasn't begging for his life or pleading for mercy. He was praising the humans, proclaiming their superiority as if it were a universal truth. Shockwaves rippled through the alien ranks. Soldiers who had fought bravely for their king, believing in his divine right to rule, now saw him reduced to this. It wasn't just the loss of a leader, it was the shattering of everything they had believed in. How could they continue to fight for an empire whose king had so utterly betrayed them? The impact was immediate. Alien morale plummeted, and reports of desertions and internal unrest began to flood in. The empire, once a unified force under the king's iron fist, was starting to fracture. Some alien leaders tried to dismiss the broadcast as a human trick, but the image of their broken king was too powerful to ignore. As the parade wound its way through the devastated streets, the alien king continued to deliver speeches, each more humiliating than the last. His delusions were on full display for the galaxy to see. In his mind, he was being honored for his loyalty, for finally recognizing humanity's superiority. In reality, he was a puppet, paraded through the streets as a symbol of human victory. For humanity, this was more than just a moment of triumph. It was a declaration. The war was no longer just about survival. It was about showing the universe that even the most powerful of rulers could be brought low by human ingenuity and resilience. The king's downfall was the ultimate symbol of humanity's rise. And for the aliens watching, it was the end of an era. Their king had been broken, their empire was crumbling, and the galaxy had witnessed their humiliation. Across the galaxy, screens flickered to life, broadcasting the parade in high definition. Entire civilizations, alien species that had once lived under the shadow of the alien king's empire, watched in stunned silence. The sight before them was unthinkable. Their once great ruler, the symbol of power and supremacy, parading through the streets of Earth like a puppet, speaking in praise of humanity. The galaxy had feared this king for centuries. His empire had spread like wildfire, conquering worlds with an iron fist, leaving nothing but subjugation in its wake. To see him now, broken, his mind twisted into praising the very species he once sought to enslave, was a shock too profound to comprehend. This was no simple defeat. It was a total unraveling of everything the empire stood for. From the fringes of the empire to its core, reactions were swift. Some alien species, long oppressed, began to whisper of rebellion. If the king, their most powerful figure, had been so thoroughly defeated, what hope did the empire have of maintaining control? What did it mean for the soldiers fighting on distant worlds, now seeing their supreme leader reduced to a humiliated figurehead? The fallout was immediate. Within days of the broadcast, reports of rebellions began pouring in from across the empire. Once loyal colonies were rising up, emboldened by the sight of their ruler's downfall. The king had been the glue holding the empire together. With him shattered, so too was the unity that had bound the alien factions. The alien military, the backbone of the empire, began to crumble. Soldiers who had once fought with unwavering belief in their cause were now questioning everything. If their king could be defeated, manipulated, and humiliated in such a profound way, what were they really fighting for? Desertions became common as entire units abandoned their posts, unwilling to continue serving an empire that had lost its heart. Alien generals, once confident in their superiority, scrambled to maintain control. But without the king to rally behind, their efforts were futile. Morale had been shattered by the broadcast, and no amount of discipline or force could restore it. The empire's vast territories, once held tightly under the king's rule, began slipping through their fingers. Worlds that had been subjugated for centuries were suddenly declaring independence, and the empire, now leaderless, was powerless to stop them. In the human command center, discussions began about what to do with the alien king now that he had served his purpose. Some argued that executing him would be the final, decisive blow to the alien empire. It would be a symbolic act, the ultimate insult, to eliminate their once unstoppable ruler. Others, however, saw a different path. The king, now a broken puppet, was no longer a threat. His very existence, living in humiliation, was a constant reminder of humanity's victory. The humans ultimately decided to spare him. Executing him would give the alien remnants a martyr, a symbol to rally behind. But leaving him alive, parading him as the shattered figurehead of a fallen empire, would continue to demoralize their enemies. His life was no longer his own. It belonged to humanity now. And as long as he lived, he would serve as a living testament to their triumph. As the alien empire continued to fracture, humanity began to reflect on the war's true nature. This hadn't been a victory won through brute force alone. In fact, humanity had been on the brink of extinction, their cities decimated, their military forces nearly crushed under the weight of the alien invasion. But where the aliens relied on overwhelming power, humanity had adapted. They had turned the very psychology of their enemy against them, exploiting their arrogance, their belief in their invincibility, and used it as a weapon. The war had been a lesson in resilience and cunning. The humans had refused to surrender, had refused to break under the seemingly unstoppable force of the alien empire. Instead, they had fought back, not with sheer numbers or superior firepower, but with strategy, with innovation, and ultimately with a psychological strike that had shattered the enemy's morale. As the galaxy watched the fallout from the king's humiliation, humanity began to rise on the galactic stage. Once seen as a backwater species, insignificant in the grand scheme of things, they were now a symbol of resilience, of strength, of the ability to overcome even the most impossible odds. They had not only defended their home, but had also dismantled an empire that had terrorized the galaxy for generations. For the aliens, there was no recovering from this defeat. Their king was broken, their empire in ruins. The species that had once demanded Earth's subjugation, that had sought to enslave humanity, was now scattered and leaderless. Many of the alien factions that had once been part of the empire turned inward, struggling to maintain control over their own worlds as rebellion spread like wildfire. In the final moments of the war, it became clear that the humans had won not just a military victory, but a psychological one. The alien empire had collapsed, not because of overwhelming force, but because the humans had outsmarted them, had broken their spirit. The king's downfall had been the key, and now the remnants of his once great empire were left to pick up the pieces, too fractured and demoralized to ever pose a threat again. The humans, meanwhile, stood united. The war had tested them in ways they had never imagined, but it had also forged a new understanding of their place in the galaxy. They were no longer the underdogs, the species fighting for survival against a superior enemy. They were now a force to be reckoned with, a species that had not only survived but had triumphed against an empire that had seemed unbeatable. In the end, the war wasn't won by sheer force of arms. It was won by breaking the enemy's will, by showing them that even the most powerful ruler, the most feared leader, could be brought low. The alien king, once the symbol of invincibility, was now nothing more than a puppet, a living reminder of the dangers of arrogance and the power of resilience. And as the galaxy watched, humanity emerged from the ashes, stronger than ever before.